Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here at our Oakwood Village store, and it is going to be National Red Rose Day coming up very soon. And so we wanted to talk about knockouts, and these are knockout roses, and this is essentially going to be our spotlight on knockout roses. And I've talked about roses before, care and maintenance and things, but we wanted to talk specifically about knockouts. They have been a huge part of the green industry for the last 25 years, and they really pushed the roses into the 21st century. Their breeder is, his name is Will Radler, and he bred knockout roses so they would be just a rewarding, easy care rose that really anyone can grow. I do want to tell you that early on when we were learning about knockout roses, when they just came into the green industry, we were told a story, so I hope this is okay to tell, but what was really interesting is Will Radler, as a rose breeder, was constantly looking for a rose that was cold hardy, really cold tolerant, because he was breeding up in, I want to say Minnesota, maybe northern Wisconsin, but he was up north quite a bit. And so he was looking for cold hardiness. He was looking for really good disease resistance. You know, obviously roses that grow on their own root system so they can winter over really well. And just a nice rose, and was getting frustrated. And at the end of one season, he hadn't found what he wanted. And so he threw his roses in the compost pile. And the next spring, he actually found the single knockout rose. So the original knockout rose that's right down here, he found it in the compost pile. That is what we heard from our Star Roses rep. So I hope that is a true story, but I think it's really cool in the fact that these roses they do what they're supposed to do in the landscape for us. So let's talk about requirements to be successful with these roses. And again, there's not a lot of requirements. So we'll talk about this, and you can be successful growing these as well. I should start out to say that knockout roses are a shrub rose in that shrub rose category. So they really don't get tall, maybe like a hybrid tea. They never really produce long stems for cutting. However, you can cut the flowers, but they are a shrub type. So they have kind of a bushy, rounded habit. That's what they do. And that they do bloom continuously throughout the season. So they're a little bit different out there in the garden, have a lot of different uses, and we'll talk about that too. But I wanted to clarify that they're a shrub type rose. Sometimes folks refer to them as a landscape type rose, and that's great too. They can be used in a lot of different ways. So let's start out with sun requirements, because that's always what we talk about. Sun requirements with these roses is 6 hours or more of direct sunlight. You got to have it, folks, especially when you're growing roses, because again, they need a lot of energy in order to produce these beautiful flowers. And again, continually repeat bloom, that takes a lot of sun energy. So 6 or more hours of sunlight is fantastic. Again, when you look at Star Roses and you do a little research on their website, they say 6 to 8 again, and we were kind of talking about that with veggies and herbs and things, but honestly, 6 or more, you're going to do very well with this rose. The next thing is soil, and soil for roses is pretty typical for all roses. You want a well-drained, amended soil. So again, when we talk about amending our soils, whether you have clay soils, which most of us do in Northeast Ohio, or sandy soils, whenever you add organic matter to your soils, it's going to benefit your plant material. So if you can add compost, sweet peat, planting mixes, what have you, when you are planting these roses, it's really going to help in the long run. They can take a slight acidity as well. So just be aware, if you go in, you do a soil test, you find out that your soil is slightly acidic, that's not a problem for roses. They can tolerate that. And many of our hardy plant materials can really tolerate, a slight acidity. That's pretty normal, especially in our growing area in Northeast Ohio. Okay, water. water is really, really important when you're talking about roses. Most roses can tolerate, again, those full sun conditions, a lot of heat out there too, but watering's still very important. So when we talk about establishing shrubs, especially most of our perennial plant material, our annuals in the ground, even our lawns, we talk about 1 inch of water applied 1 time per week, slow, deep, thorough watering, okay? It's really important because your root system of your plants is always going to follow that water down into the soil, and ultimately that's what we want them to really have to get established really well into the soil, okay? So again, that deep, thorough watering, that's always really, really good. If you are planting these roses in containers, because again, when we talk about uses, this is a great container rose because they're so darn cold hardy. So containers are a little bit different. Yes, absolutely. Plant them in containers. They will do very, very well for you. But make sure when you're watering again, you're getting that even moisture to just slightly dry soil conditions. And again, when you're watering containers, make sure it's a thorough watering where you're fully moistening the soil substrate, letting the water drain out. And when it is done draining, you repeat that process. Make sure you're thoroughly watering again. So, and you're going to have to check. Obviously, when you grow roses in containers, you're going to have to check that container soil a little bit more often than you would have to check in the ground. The other thing that I should mention is rainfall. If you're getting a 1/2 inch of rainfall during the week, you only have to irrigate that other 1/2 inch, okay, for the week. So do keep that in mind as well. And that gets to my next point with watering. With roses that can get some disease issues, however, knockout roses are really, really clean, very, very good to excellent disease resistance. You really want to avoid overhead watering on roses. And if you can water at the base of the roses, put that water right at their root system, that is going to be the best for them. Ultimately, in the morning, again, very good time to water for these guys. And for most plants, again, we usually suggest morning watering. And then the reason being is if you water at the base and you avoid overhead watering, you're going to get a lot less spotting, possible disease on the foliage, okay? So try to avoid overhead watering. Try to put the water right at the base of the rose. That's always going to be really healthy. We typically recommend soaker hoses. It's a really easy way to water out there in the garden or the landscape. And so that's going to be a really good thing to do. Okay. Next thing is going to be fertilizer. And with these roses, they do not require fertilizer, heavy fertilizer at all. They are really good repeat bloomers. If you would like to apply a fertilizer to them, that's great. And typically they recommend, Knockout Roses recommends that you apply that fertilizer after that first flush of blooms that you get on your knockouts, okay? So typically end of May, beginning of June for us in Northeast Ohio is when you would apply that first fertilizer. We love the Rose Tone product. We think it's an excellent product, slow release, granular. You really can't go wrong with Rose Tone. You would go ahead and apply it after that first flush of blooms, and then typically monthly after that until August. So typically May through August is your typical rose fertilizer range or month range where you want to apply those fertilizers. We don't typically apply fertilizer to roses after August because we don't want them to push new growth too late in the fall season. And then the next thing you know, fall frosts come and they damage all of that new growth. So that's why we stop in August. So May through August, apply your Rose Tone. You can apply Iron Tone if you'd like, and that would be great. That will work very, very well for them once a month. With maintenance, okay, these roses are so easy that they are very, very low maintenance. They are considered to be self-cleaning self-cleaning roses, okay? So if you do not have the time to deadhead, that is quite all right. These roses will continue pushing off all the old petals and blossoms and things, and they will bring on more buds, more blooms as they go throughout the season. They are wonderful as far as that repeat continuous bloom. All of the varieties really do a nice job of doing that. However, deadheading, as you know that I have talked about before, is a good thing to do. So if you are out in the garden and you do see some spent flowers on your knockout roses, it's always a good thing, because ultimately when you're deadheading that flower, you are removing obviously that died back or dead detrital material. And we talk about removing the 3 Ds again, that disease, the dead, the damage, okay? And then ultimately it's going to keep that plant more tidy. Plus it's going to push more energy back into the plant so it can produce even more buds and blooms for you, okay? So deadheading is very easy with the knockout roses. You find a spent flower typically. You're going to go down from the base of the flower down into the next flower that's coming off or bud that's coming off, and you're going to remove it there. So I'm going to grab my scissors just really quick and I'll snip this off for you. You'll see here right at the base, I'm going to snip at about a 45-degree angle, and I just have 2 really pretty buds coming up, and I have that spent flower, okay? So that's if you get the opportunity to do it. If you don't, again, they are very forgiving. Knockout roses are very forgiving. Like I said, self-cleaning will repeat and go through their whole process without you doing anything to them, okay? These roses are so cold tolerant that they really don't require any winter protection in Northeast Ohio. So we love them. That's very different from some of the other rose varieties that we have. Plus, with an attribute here, some of the knockouts do have a scent. The original knockout has a scent. Easy Beezy has a scent as well. So some of them do have a scent. Double knockout also has a scent. So do look for them. It's about half of the collection that are scented. Other maintenance notes with this plant. They are really, really good as far as disease resistance. However, we have certain times of the year and certain weather and climate issues that are happening, and sometimes they can get spots, okay? So you might see a little bit of black spot here and there. You may see some powdery mildew. Comparatively to some other roses, these plants stay very, very clean. And when you do see something like that, remove it. Again, it's part of those 3 Ds. So remove the disease and it will do very, very well for you. Again, when you're removing those diseased leaves, just go ahead and pinch them off, clip them off, and then you'll go ahead and you will dispose of them in the garbage. Don't throw them in the compost pile, okay? So do remember that. And that's very easy. And again, looking through these shrub roses, we've had quite a cool, wet spring, and they're doing really, really well. I don't really see too many spots on them. Maybe deep down, if I look really, really close, there might be some spotty leaves here and there. Just remove them and then you'll be ready to go. So these plants are excellent as far as disease resistance. The other maintenance note that I have for your knockout roses is that it's recommended that you cut them back every spring. So when you do start to see your knockout roses flush out in the spring, just start to push that new growth, that's a good time to start cutting them back. For the full-size shrub roses, knockout roses, they usually grow around the 3 to 4 foot mark, tall and wide. They are recommended to be cut back to about 12 inches tall. The reason being is that knockout roses will grow 3 times during the season. So if you cut them down to 12 inches tall, they are going to, again, grow up to that 3 to 4 foot mark, okay? So keep that in mind. With the petite rose that I have here, this is your petite knockout here, that beautiful, bright red, very, very deep red here. This usually grows about 18 inches tall in the garden. So again, you can cut this plant back to about 6 inches tall in the spring when you start to see that new growth flush out, okay? And that is something that's going to be yearly maintenance. When you do cut them back, you cut them back again to 12 inches or 6 inches. And then you look for any very weak, thin growth and you remove that down to the base, down to a nice thick cane. Make sure you're removing again the 3Ds, and you will have a lovely rose that will reflush for you, no problem. Okay, uses, as I mentioned, container plant, absolutely. Make sure you've got a nice big container for that root system to move out into. They will do a very good job in containers. Those containers need to be protected over the winter, okay? So once they get several fall frosts, you start to lose the leaves and the like, you can go ahead and move that container to a protected side of the home. Go ahead and mulch around that pot. You can throw some leaves over the top and protect it for the winter. Or you can bring it into a cold garage and you can put it in that garage or garden shed for the winter and they will be fine. Just make sure that you check on the soil moisture during those winter months. Make sure that they don't dry out. Okay. Normally what we do for these guys, again, for uses is foundation plants. They make a beautiful foundation plant. Again, sunny sides of the home, south, west, or east, do very, very well. They can also make a really nice sort of medium-sized hedge if you'd like to. So you can plant them about 3 foot apart. Sorry, not the petite knockout, but most of the other varieties, you can plant them about 3 foot apart and you can make a lovely hedge. It can be a beautiful backdrop and can work very, very well with other perennials, your Shasta daisies, your Veronicas, all of those types of beautiful blooming plants that you could arrange with your cut flowers, of course, from the knockout roses. They do very well as accents. They do very well as just long blooming in the border, in the landscape. So do place them where you need a spot of color. I was going to say, I forgot one thing about maintenance. And unfortunately, knockout roses, like most roses, are not deer resistant, okay? So do be aware that you need to protect them from deer browsing. You can use netting, you could use a spray. It just depends on what works best for you, but do be aware they will get nibbled upon. And sometimes you say, okay, dear, thanks for pruning my knockout roses, or basically deadheading my knockout roses. They'll come back, they'll continue to bloom for you. But again, they do require deer protection. So do remember that. Okay, let's talk about the different varieties here. We grow about 10 of the 12 different varieties of knockouts. There are some that are more of a cupped or single open flower, like this single pink knockout, okay, where you see the center of the flower there. Whenever you see a knockout that is more open like this, that is a really good pollinator attractant. So just be aware if you're wanting to bring the bees in, and I should mention the yellow Easy Beesy, the yellow, we used to have Sunny Knockout and we no longer grow Sunny Knockout. The Easy Beesy was the replacement for that. But again, it's more of an open single flower. It's gotten a little wet this morning. But when you can see the centers of those flowers, that's going to be a good pollinator attractant. So keep that in mind. If you want to grow some knockouts and you want to bring some pollinators in, you would go for maybe more of the open single flowers. Let's start out with the original knockout, and you can tell the buds are really, really beautiful. It's more of like a cherry red, pinky cherry red here. Buds start out really nice and tight, and then they tend to open up to that single flower where you can see the center. It's a beautiful, clean plant. The original knockout, again, is that 3 to 4 foot tall and really, really lovely, excuse me. So right next to it is that single pink. Okay, so this is pink knockout. And again, starts pretty tight, really pretty tightly, buds with the tight petals, pointed tip there. And then it does open up to that more cup form, if you will, when growing. So that's single pink. Right next to it here is the white knockout. And again, has a beautiful single flower. Starts a really sort of creamy, buttery cream color with the buds, and then opens up to the white. There's been a couple versions of white knockout, just so you know, and this is going to be that improved version here. Okay, and by my elbow here, this is double knockout. Everybody really loves this flower. Again, you have double the amount of petals, and believe it or not, this one and the original knockout are sisters. They were kind of found at a different time. Obviously, original knockout was found, and then this was another, discovery. So they found the double knockout a little bit later, but they are sisters, and so they were developed from the same cross of roses. So that's really, really cool. Again, nice compact habits, a little bit darker, sort of burgundy to purple color on the foliage here. Petite is going to be one of the newest knockouts. Really, really beautiful. Obviously a miniature rose, beautiful deep coloration in the flowers, really, really tight flowers. Beautiful dark foliage when it is developed, when it's young, and then it'll really deepen to a very, very dark green, glossy green. This is a beautiful plant. We will use these to make tree roses, graft this petite knockout on tree roses. It really is a lovely, lovely, nice compact rose. Very, very good. This is double pink, as you can tell. Again, beautiful pointed buds here, and then it'll open up and it will have multiple petals on the inside. Beautiful bubblegum pink color. Right next to it is Easy Beezy. It's budded up really, really nicely. We just had a few flowers that were out in the rain, so they are starting to diminish, but it will come out and it'll be in full bud here soon. Coral knockout is just above here. Coral has slightly smaller flowers than some of the other doubles out there, but the foliage color is really nice, where it has sort of a reddish, bronzy tint to the foliage. So that's really fun with coral knockout. Coral is going to be one of the tallest, I should say one of the largest of the knockout family, about 4.5 foot. That's where it can get up to 4.5 foot tall and wide. Next to it, this is Orange Glow. This is one of the newer varieties. Beautiful sort of orange, deep orange when it's tight in the center, and then will kind of fade out and has a little bit of yellow, a little bit of pink. It's a really pretty blend there. So the Orange Glow is really nice. And then this is actually Peachy. And Peachy, I feel like, is sort of a semi-double. I'm trying to find one of the flowers here. And again, has a pinker color than Orange Glow, but again, is a beautiful blend, has some yellow and some very pale pink in there. Very pretty rose. So lots to choose from with the knockout roses. You definitely want to put them in full sun conditions. Well-drained soil, amended soil is always preferable. Fertilizer, again, they really don't require fertilizer, a lot of fertilizer, but you can use that rose tone after that first flush, and then once a month until August. Make sure that you're watering at the base. That really goes for all roses. You want to avoid that overhead watering with them. And other than that, if you want a deadhead, you can. You don't have to. They are self-cleaning roses. They're rewarding and easy, and they just are really, really beautiful in the garden. Enjoy.